Anyway, your turn.
No, and that's good. Let me give you a prompt, see how you do with it.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, in the end, you've got an endless supply of this, but I was thinking more on that literature thing. I know you haven't gone and taken a deep dive, but if you could speak to the generalities of how the feminist agenda is pushed through either literature or through politics. Pick the venue or pick the medium.
Let's talk about a book called Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. He's a Nigerian writer, and that book launched him to fame, I think in the 40s or the 50s.
Right, and it's a regular part of many high school curriculum.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. They read it in high school. They may read it in college. And the title is an allusion to a Yeats poem about, it's kind of a millennial idea that, every 2,000 years we go into an entropy cycle. And the book is a clash of cultures story. British missionaries and militia going into Nigeria and attempting to quell the tribal warfare. And it's told from the point of view of a certain tribe and a chieftain or a member of the warrior class. And it's kind of a tragedy of error, of misunderstandings, and also miscalculation. That is, the warrior elite of these tribes miscalculates the force with which the British are coming, and the British resolve, and thinks they're going to scare away the British with a few hatchet jobs on a missionary here or a missionary there, and it just provokes the British response of sending in 900 troops armed to the teeth and wiping out an entire village and saying, maybe we got our message across now. But what you see in the tribe, the introduction of the Christian mission has an incredibly disruptive effect on the Igbo society. The Igbos are the particular tribe, a warrior tribe bordering on other warrior clan tribes with whom they regularly skirmish. They take heads. That's their level of development, is to take heads and display them. So these are all markers of martial hegemony. And they're for the benefit and consumption of the people within, to be a member of the clan, to show that you're a conquering male and you're worthy of wives. And it also scares away the external threats, that you don't mess with these people. When you hear their drums, what they get a lot, it's really interesting, when they start the war drums, you get one of two outcomes. You go to war, or they send an emissary first thing in the morning. And they go, whoa, what happened? Well, you disrespected one of our women in the market. You did this, you did that. Whoa, hey, how about if we, we sacrifice one of ours? And they say, okay, maybe not one, maybe two. How about two? Oh, no, just one, and we'll give you another in adoption, but you have to raise him. Okay, that's a deal. And then they evade war, but it's all based on reputation. This tribe, all it has to do is beat the drums, and everybody gets in line and negotiates. And and every once in a while, of course, the story tells about the history of warfare, when how this particular tribe became ascendant, and it was by actual kicking ass and taking heads and not taking any shit from anybody, and taking lands and cultivating lands, and not to be messed with. they also their population expands, so they become, a regional hegemon. What they don't see coming is they allow these British missions in, and they're tolerated on one hand, but also the Brits show force too, and these people understand force. So they just let them set up the mission, and immediately, in like overnight, the women gravitate to the chapels, together with the non-warrior lower classes, the guys who aren't cut out to be members of the warrior clans. And there's several warrior clan huts. So, I mean, I found this all very interesting, teaching it and reading about it and whatnot. But, now with a red pill lens, what you see is that this was a fast-acting cancer on their society. That the women found a sort of an ally and another protector, an alternative protector, because of course any perceived or real mistreatment from their own men, they could complain to the pastor or the priest. Well, these are Anglicans, so and they in turn have the British militia, on their side as well. So it's a society that allows polygamy, although it's not widely practiced. Only the top warriors can afford more than one wife. But the women become very mouthy. They become very, very disrespectful of their men, and these men can't do enough. And they get shamed, and they get ridiculed, small penis, impotence, and it's just all this like undermining, disrespect. And the men do handle their women with like children, that is, with a heavy hand. You don't put up with any bullshit. You don't put up with any bullshit with the kids either. You teach them, to be members of society, either to farm or to fight. And those are the roles. The women collect, maintain the household, raise the kids up to a certain age, and then they're basically out of the circle. Then the boys, if I remember correctly, the boys at a certain age go to live in a lodge. They're separated from the women. And you start getting sensitive boys growing up in the tribe, who want to drink palm wine and who want to sing songs and write poetry. And there's a place for all that. Now, in the story, they tell you that this particular tribe is just coming out of its hegemon wars, that it had to impose the borders, the river over there, the mountains over there, the forest over here, and they just came out of that. So they're highly invested in their martial prowess and values. So among the men, there's no bullshit. They sit in council. They don't allow any kind of, mealy mouth talk. And they are heavy-handed with, let's say, their own underclasses. Like weak men do, they're kind of under a boot, they get pushed around, they are ridiculed, but they have the space where they can farm. The warriors themselves also farm. It's interesting to see the surplus that are produced by the minority of warrior men. That is, they conquer and bring in goods. But when they're not fighting, they're farming their asses off. And it's thankless work. It's clearing forests, which you have to do every few years because the soil gives out, and planting yams. And so this incredible surplus of really protein that they're producing for the tribe. And of course, in exchange for all that, really all they get is the authority in the household. So that's what they get in exchange. All the responsibility, all the risk, producing most of the food, fighting off all the enemies, and then they let this, really, at this time, what does the, Christianity represent? It represents the interest of the underclasses and the women. And boy, does it throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. And the downfall, of course, is that the warrior clan is unequipped from what it knows about negotiating with other tribes and with other manly martial values. Its vision is too short and it can't deal with the Brits. And because of the vast asymmetry of power. And so they come in, with rifles and cannon and basically pacify the warrior class. There's a famous scene where there's like 9 of them sitting in a jail and they just can't even conceive of what jail is and what the meaning is. And then they're released and they just go right back to what they were doing before. They just can't conceive of it, So, there's a huge cultural gap. And that's something that, we could explore later. But this is what we have in the West. What we're doing is we're giving women an alternative to status and economic advancement other than bearing and raising infants. That was a pretty big role. And we've said, no, you don't have to do that. You can go work and compete with the men. And of course they choose that. They choose that because it's their own status. And it's also the way of saying, I don't have to take shit from men. Now it's my own money. I pay my own rent. I got my own things. So clearly, yeah, they don't have to take shit. But really what it's turned into is they don't have to be nice to us anymore. They don't have to bring any value to the relationship. How many of them can't cook a lick, won't clean, won't even be nice? They're the shrew is now the rule of the day. They're opinionated, but opinionated in a way that they don't even have to do the due diligence of being informed. No other segment is less committed to being informed in politics, in economy, in morals, logic. So, they're all empowered, but in the wrong ways. And the other thing that is startling is, and this has been, I remember when I was still doing Facebook, getting into a spat with a British gal, and we had gotten along very well. But I'd begun to wake up, and the early talk about Brexit, going way back. This goes back 20 some odd years. She gets on there with a screed about, her own countrymen all of a sudden are the racist, reprobate, short-sighted, anti-human, scum, Nazi. You can't even believe the screed. And I'm like, so I answer her and I say, this is before I was really even a RedPill. I said, God, these are your own people. That was kind of a RedPill for me. It was like, these are your own people. And this is a gal, who likes guys, had a boyfriend, had a couple of kids, was going to have a couple of kids. And, just this vicious screed, because some people thought, hey, maybe immigration, you're bringing in a lot of dependents, the arguments that at least deserve a hearing. I believe they're right, but that's beside the point. Do you immediately go to total disapproval of your own people? Like total, like moral exiling of your own, flesh and blood, your blood and your own kin. And immediately go to that. And this is a teacher, otherwise rational. That scared me. and and later I've come to understand it. And what it is women don't have loyalty. Loyalty is not a value. It's not part of their bioevolutionary strategy. And they're as loyal as there is provision and protection. And that's why they're at the forefront of open borders. All these borders have been opened by women executives at the top of government. And because their role is to serve the master, whoever it is. I mean, so you can see this in, they're unafraid of bringing in a patriarchal, repressive, like a hard patriarchal society and live in our midst, probably sport fuck them, sometimes intermarry with them. They get a big surprise. I remember back in the 70s, these women who married Iranians or Iraqis and shit. We're supposed to feel sorry for them, and they get taken back for a visit. Let's visit. I want you to see my hometown. And they go visit, Tehran with their kids, and the father goes, well, we're staying here. And she's like, no, I'm leaving. Okay, you leave. Okay, let me get my kids packed. What? What do you mean get your kids packed? They're my kids. And we were supposed to feel bad about that. But the fact is, she married way out of her side of her tribe, totally bought into the idea that that other person was going to be interchangeable with one of her own, and totally got what she deserved. And and want to get the whole State Department involved, and the classic, make a federal international case about her own damn decision, her own damn personal decision. She never went to the State Department and said, do you think this is wise? I should marry an Iranian? And no, they never gave us a chance to say, they have some customs. There's some history with this. You're not the first one. This shit went down in the 1900s. In the 19th century, people got big surprises, and but from the guy's side, the Iranian guy, he's like, no, your role is with the children, and I'm the provider. And they didn't like that. So but this whole expectation that the wheels of the entire state have to come off because you make the entitlement is just astounding, and we're seeing it even way back. This went down in the 70s. I remember this, maybe even in the 60s. There are cases.
Can you bring it back to the book? How does it all wrap up? It's an example of, an allegory of what?
Well, the women, they posit a loyalty to the out group, and because it provides a different layer of protection, and by the way, provision. So what they did is they began to group up, and it's been a while since I've read it, but to basically put their own men into such a bind between these, divided loyalties, that the way the story is told, the men escalate. And that's their downfall. That is, they cleave under their warrior culture, but they're outmatched. But they don't know that they're outmatched. That's the thing. They're a very, kind of naively empirical, superstitious culture. They're the kinds of people who at night don't pronounce the word snake, because that conjures a snake. But you're living in the middle of a jungle and you're tripping over snakes. So, but they don't have this understanding, that, the post hoc ergo propter hoc understanding that the word doesn't really conjure the snake. The fact is, you're just as likely to trip over snakes as not. When you live in the Congo, or I forget exactly where it is, like Nigeria.
Yeah.
So they escalate, and the women stand by and watch their men go to slaughter. Just go, boom. And then, of course, they're left with the beta males who didn't fight. That, of course, is dysgenic. Now, being black, and these are, sub-Saharan blacks, had no possibility of interbreeding with the conquerors. Even at that, they threw in with the outsider. Now, most, a lot of women would look at the outsider and say, am I going to get a better deal with them? I might egg my man on and just go with the winner. Though the old saying about let's you and him fight. That is a woman's strategy to find out, to sort who she's going to go with, right? And even here, though, no possibility. They still did it anyway. If the woman had not gravitated to the mission, the cuck men, the betas and below, wouldn't have either. Because, so there'd be no attraction there for the cuck men. The men went for the women. They went to say, hey, maybe there's a chance of getting me wee willie wet, and because, they're largely, out of the mating pool. Because you did have a warrior elite with getting the top women. Although I'm trying to remember, I believe the society had the beginnings of some pair sorting. Pair sorting is where you avoid all that, having all the top men get all the, most of the women, the halfway decent women and above. Because that's unstable, because then the top men are always guarding against being ganged up on by, the betas or the kappas or the deltas. And so that's dangerous for them. So they agree, look, maybe I'll take 2 wives, but I'm not going to take 9, right? I'm going to limit it. And maybe ecologically, it was the carrying capacity limited that anyway, because they're expected to provide.
Right.
So maybe there was just a natural break on that. I don't remember. And so you did have some degree of pair sorting. That is, top men with top women, second tier men with second, third tier women. So you didn't get a large community with no possibility of pairing up and of procreating. And also you got a churn, you got a genetic churn. So the progeny of the middle and the low could produce a good warrior, because there's enough churn in the genetics that you could produce it. And then at the same time, the criterion for warrior could include, a lot of things. There could be the big bull guy who just destroys everything in his path, and there could be the skinny, wiry guy who can dodge and deke and be an effective warrior. And there's other kinds who can run really fast. And so you need a little bit of everything. It's not just one group of bulls, in the warrior class. So, there's some of these things mediate how the pair sorting is done. In any case, I mean, it's just interesting to see how short-sighted the women are. I mean, no possibility of mating with the outsiders, yet they went there anyway. And these women were being provided for, and these were not the scum. The men who wound up in the missions were, let's just say, on the spectrum, more effeminate. We know they didn't have any of this, queer stuff. It's just men not cut out for fighting. Just not, that exists too. I mean, so.
Yeah, like you.